How do you learn who you really are? It's not found in books. It's found on the battlefield. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to the battlefield of the mind. Today I'm here with Nathaniel Dunn, and this warrior is in the battle with me, and we are going to be pulling people out of hell, and I mean this literally. So, welcome, Nathaniel, and please tell these badass warriors who you are.
Thanks for having me, man. I've enjoyed our conversations up until now.
Up until this moment.
Yeah, up until this moment. Well, no, I think there's a real lack of real talk in the world, and honesty and transparency, and people willing to ask the tough questions and stick their flag in the ground and say, this is what I stand for and this is what I think. And it seems like from our conversations up until now, you're clearly one of those guys. So I'm looking forward to this. Who am I? I am a changemaker. I'm really interested in change, fascinated by change, actually. And what that means for me is change in someone that can lead to change in the world. I'm someone who's gone through a lot of my own growth and change and completely changed my life around. And that's allowed me to now do work that I think is important and meaningful and significant in the world. And I see that there are a lot of problems that we face in our modern society. And we need more people involved in solutions rather than creating problems. And so that's what I'm interested in and what inspires me. And what that looks like is I'm coaching, I'm working with entrepreneurs, people who are using business as a tool for positive change in the world. I'm helping people to figure out what they want from their life and who they are, and helping people get on and be who they want to be in the world. And doing that through a number of different mediums, from writing and speaking, running groups, running men's groups. It takes a number of different forms, but ultimately that's what I'm about and what interests me.
Yeah, you dropped a bunch of pebbles here that we can go in deep on, like any of these options. Everything from right now, people are starving for authenticity because there's so much fake in this world. And then also change and what that actually means and why people struggle with change. Are you on the problem team or solution team? And then finding purpose in your men's group. You're just, listen, you're planting these badass seeds here that we can go down and get people going, damn, I needed to hear that. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to start at the main thing, and then we're going to go into some of the other things. Right now, your purpose right now is men. And I am in the same fight with you. We're fighting for our guys. Why did you choose to go in the direction of, like, our men, we need to fight together? Why did you choose that direction?
Yeah. It just started to occur to me that would be a useful place to look, or a useful place to focus on. I'm going to catch you on that, because that isn't my only purpose, really. My purpose is broader than that, because I think what's going on with men is a vehicle for creating bigger change. I think there are much bigger problems in terms of how we run our world and what we value and how our system works. And I see that the male dynamic is at the root of much of that, actually. And where that came from for me was actually going to a men's group, being invited to a men's group. I hired a coach when I first started my business, and I learned some skills to be able to help people and to coach and to be good at facilitating change in someone. And I assumed that would mean all of a sudden the clients would appear. And as anyone who's gone into business for themselves knows, it doesn't work like that. And I was scratching my head for ages going, I think I'm good at this, but I don't seem to have any clients. And I hired a guy to help me, a guy called Ankush Jain, who to help me to grow my business. And when I hired him, he said to me, I think you should come to this group that I run. He runs this thing called the Powerful Men's Immersion, which he's still running. I think he's been doing that 10 years now. And I was like, what is it? I had no idea what it was, really. And he said, look, trust me, it will help you, and it will help you with your business, but it will also help you with everything else. It will help you with your relationship. It will help you with your state of mind. It will help you with your health. It will help you with anything. I was like, oh, that's a big claim, but I trusted the guy. I was just about to pay him a lot of money to help me. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to trust you. And I went to this men's group with no expectation, really. I didn't know what it was. And it was such a powerful experience for me. It was a bunch of guys for a number of days. And the rules were, there's no judgment. We're all equal. There's no content. There's no agenda or curriculum or something. We're just here, and we're here to learn and grow together. And whatever you bring to this, whatever you are seeking in your life, you bring it to this group. We're here. And that was pretty confronting, actually, because I was like, I don't know how to play this game. I've never ever, and I think that was like 2017 maybe. So I don't know, I was like mid-30s, and I'd got to that point and I thought, I've never been in a space like this with other men, ever. And that was really confronting. I'm like, I don't know what to do, and a bunch of stuff came up for me that weekend, and it was huge for me. And it really, really helped me. And it helped me in ways that it wasn't sort of explicit. I had feedback from important people in my life, specifically my mum and my sister at that time, who were really struggling. My little nephew had just been diagnosed with very serious illness, genetic condition that he's never going to recover from, and the prognosis was really bad. And my family were really struggling. And I'd flown over to the UK for this because I was living in Australia. And I went to this men's group right at the beginning of the trip, and then I spent a couple of weeks with my family. And at the end of that, a couple of weeks later, both independently, both my mum and my sister said to me, there's something different about you, and it's good. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what that is. I wasn't consciously doing anything different. And it really opened my mind to like, okay, there's something about that space. And I realized, one, it's needed, and two, I could help facilitate those kind of spaces too. The magic of it was not that the coach facilitating it was a genius. And don't get me wrong, I highly rate that guy. I've got a massive amount of respect for him. I worked with him for a number of years, but it wasn't like his magnificence that was the power in it. It was the deliberate cultivation of that kind of environment. And I was like, okay, I could do that too. And so I started to do those kind of things too. And just started really seeing the impact of it and the ripples that were going out. Not just from not getting that feedback from the men in the room, but getting that feedback from other people who were coming to me afterwards and saying, I can see what you've done with this person, or that they're different. And I just started to realize, hang on a minute, this is, in terms of leverage, like I think of it in terms of leverage. Like if you want to create change in the world, the more you can focus on, the one thing that's going to have the biggest knock-on impact. And I started to realize doing work with men is an area that is a high leverage area, because it impacts them, it impacts their families, it impacts the broader male dynamic, it impacts the business world, it impacts everything. And so that's what really got me onto really seeing the value of it and being willing to pursue it, in spite of the fact that actually it's not, probably from a business perspective, it's not the easiest place to focus, because it's not like there's queues of men standing there going, we're ready to understand ourselves. It's actually the opposite. But I think it's important, and it still is.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Warrior, thank you so much for being a part of the information that we have. And you're part of our story as we are a part of yours. It's very much an honor to be able to connect with each other. If you want to know more, or you want to get started with working with me or working with our warriors so that you can begin your path to authenticity, strength, leadership, and accountability, this is the way. Together, we are way stronger. Now you get to choose. Do you go forward or keep doing what you've always done? If you stay where you're at, hey, click on some of the stuff and follow what it is. We got motivational stuff, we've got podcasts, we've got more things. Just subscribe and do the stuff and we'll keep you updated. But if you want to start going in, start jumping into what our programs offer and start your journey and being the hero in your own story. It's highly important. You covered a lot of really good stuff that the people who listen to what I do, they understand. I'm right there with you. We created the Warrior's Way mindset to do the same thing. It's a round table with a creed, and then the second rule is no blame, no shame, no judgment. We don't, the past is to teach us, not to tear each other down. Every loss is a lesson. Same thing where it's a round table, and we teach also to challenge everything, which is why if, you were in a group with me, just like the guy you were talking about, challenge me too. I'm also in evolution. I'm also growing. So it's not, I'm the king and you're in my group. This is Arthur's round table. Please speak your voice. I need to hear from you too. We get stronger together. So you found a lot of pieces in here, especially getting into leadership and what that means. You're also right in calling out all of our brothers out there who are lone wolves and think they have to do it all on their own. One thing I found is that for us guys, we're taught that we are not supposed to seek help because it's considered weakness. And most guys don't actually listen to advice until they're in crisis. Until they go, I have done all the things I thought was right and it's not working. What do you say? We don't listen until we're proven our own stuff doesn't work. And unfortunately, rock bottom is a gnarly place to be alone. And that's why together we're stronger. I enjoy that when you mention, when you see the guys together in a space where you can remove your armor, it creates growth. And that's the power of the pack versus being a lone wolf.
Yeah.
Together we're way stronger. And so I also have found the same calling where it's don't you see how badass we are when we team up our different strengths and then tackle the same problem? Here's another thing I want to add in, and this is something that's been pretty important. I've worked with men's groups, I've worked with women's groups, and I've worked with people across the globe. And there's something that women are struggling with today with their men. What is your take on working with men and this one word, empathy?
2 years ago, I think I did a collaboration with a guy who'd been a one-on-one client of mine, and he'd come to me because his wife had basically given him an ultimatum and said, because he'd come off the rails in his sort of early 50s and had achieved amazing things, really successful guy, and done really well, ticked all the boxes, and got to this point where he was like, what's this all about? I've done everything that I thought I would do and I'm not feeling how I thought I would feel. And he's made some pretty bad decisions at that point and put their relationship at risk. And she gave him an ultimatum and said, look, we can continue and I'm happy to, I want to stay with you, but you need to sort yourself out. And that's how we got talking. And we did some work together and got him back on track. And then we did a collaboration together and we created this men's group. And I had an opportunity at that point. His wife was running a network of women in business, and she said, when you're ready to launch this, you can talk to my network about it. And I said, fantastic. There was 6,000 women in this group. And I thought, I don't know how to talk to women about this because I've only ever, when I've been filling men's groups, I talk to men. And I've obviously mentioned it to women in my world that that's what I'm doing, but I've never gone really deep into it with women. And I thought, I'm not sure of the language of how to communicate this to women. And so I did what I usually do when I don't know the answer. And I asked questions and listened. And I did a research project and I talked to 50 women over probably 4 or 5 months, maybe. And asked them. I wasn't going, hey, here's the men's group. What do you think? I was doing research. I was asking questions like, what do you think's going on with the men in your world? What do you think they need? Where do you think they're struggling? What do you think's needed in the broader male dynamic. And I talked to 50 women, old, young. Some of them were talking about their partners. Some of them were talking about their kids, their sons. Some of them were talking about their fathers. But consistently, the message from all of them was, thank God someone's doing something. And the big theme that came through from that was, I can see that the man in my world is doing his best and he's trying, and he's just doesn't know that he doesn't know how to communicate to me. He's not able to articulate how he feels and what he wants. And I can see that he's not being honest with me because he's scared of upsetting me. And that's a massive barrier. And this is this huge issue in our relationship. And it's not just romantic relationships. This is, friendly relationships, parental relationships. And so I don't think it's that men don't have empathy. I know a lot of very empathetic men. I think it's
no, empathy for men. That's where the gap from women to men has been. And like, just to kind of piggyback on this, not being honest with her, and then like, he can't share his feelings with me, and all of these things. We've heard the stuff where women are saying, I need you to be my safe place. I need you to be my safe place, right? You've heard this, be a safe place for her, right?
Yeah.
Not just physically as a protector, but also emotionally and mentally. Be safe for her. If she's venting, don't fix it. Just be safe for her, right? We've heard that, what guys should do. I did a survey with over 100 men, just asking, because I got enough guys in my group. I'm asking. First question, are your feelings important to you? And every 100% said, yes, my feelings are important to me. And I said, do you believe your feelings are important to her? And 97 said, no, my feelings are not important. Now, it's important here to explain the difference between a feeling and well-being. Getting you a sandwich, what's the feeling? Making sure your laundry is done, what feeling is that? Making sure that you have, your lunchbox, or you have the gas in the car. What feeling is that? Well, not one of those is a feeling. Those are all well-being. Those are just things we're taking care of that we needed done. But when it comes to how does your man feel? Well, his sadness, that's not attractive. I don't get your shit together. We got work to do. What are you going to do to fix it? How are you going to fix that? What are you doing about it? I'm having a very tough day at work and I'm really struggling. Well, you can't quit your job, because if you do, our safety and security is at risk. So you can't quit your job. So what are you going to do about it? There's no addressing your feelings. This all goes into well-being or self-preservation. So each guy is going, when my feelings come up, my sadness is shamed. If I'm overly silly, I'm too ridiculous and too loud and too much. And if I get angry, especially in the relationship, also shamed. And so women would consistently say, I want my man to be that leader and that rock for our relationship. I want him to be the rock for us. And I said, that sounds awesome. What emotions do rocks have? Rocks don't have emotions. You want a statue? I want him to be stoic, but you won't acknowledge that he's a human? I'm like, that's consistent. Now, let's go ahead and address the three that were, no, I think that my woman has empathy. 2 of those guys were in the first 2 weeks of a relationship, and so it was the honeymoon phase, and they all broke up. And 1 guy was in complete denial of his relationship, and they are already divorced because she actually wasn't doing any empathy. He was just in denial. And so, like, the 3 oddballs that were like, we're going to defy the rule, all proved the rule. So I have a 100% thing that the women don't show empathy for their men. And then when I worked in the women's groups, and I've worked with multiple women's groups, I've had my own warrior groups for women. We had to break denial and excuses and justifications. And it took weeks to crack through that for authenticity around, do you care about his feelings, or is this for what your well-being or what you think he needs to provide for you? And men were loved for what they provide and not for being human beings. And that was the universal. So where does a man then have a fighting chance to be heard and loved and respected for being a human? And this is why you bringing up the men's groups is important. Our places that we create, I have it, you have it, is the only place a guy can take his armor off and be a human and not be shamed for it. The only empathy my guys get generally, especially because a lot of the relationships that they started were from an unhealthy place for themselves. And they would choose somebody who was also unhealthy. And they have unhealthy dynamics they're trying to navigate. The only person who shows, I care about you as a person just for being, men can do it for other men. That's an important factor that I found, because the women are universally not doing it. I wish I had a much higher percentage, but even out of 100 guys, I didn't have enough variant to go, there's enough here that needs to be challenged more. It's a 100% so far. And I'm very open to where, like, you know, you hear in my comment section, I've got millions of views, comments that I do it. I do empathy. Let me go ahead and clarify. If I said, if I was you, that's how I would feel. That's not empathy. That's about you. It's not about them anymore. What do you feel? If that was me, I would feel this way. You just took it off of them and made it about you. That is not empathy. That's you. It's the opposite of empathy. It just made it about you. It became selfish.
Yeah.
And so this is where people think they're doing empathy by A, being agreeable, or B, making it about them. Not empathy. Or I'm empathetic because I took care of I got his shoes for him, or I booked the hotel for him. Well, that's not a feeling. Those are well-being. Now, can women have empathy for children? Absolutely. Empathy for other women? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Empathy for a TV show character? Yes. Yes, they can. But there is a block for their man, their protector, provider, presider. There's a block for empathy there because the weakness in that category inhibits some sort of self-preservation, safety, security, reassurance system that needs to be strong.
Yeah. I think that's a kind of a subset of women, isn't it? Or a subset of relationships, let's say, a romantic relationship. Certainly my overall sense from talking to women about this is like, they're with us. They want us to be grounded and understand ourselves and communicate. I felt like from my research into this, they were our biggest supporters in that. Really, they were like, "Come on, we need men to rise up too. We rise up better together." That was a very strong thing. Bear in mind, it wasn't just about romantic relationships. It was people talking about their brothers or their kids or even their fathers. I think when it comes to the romantic relationships, that becomes then confusing because there's this. I don't think actually women often know what they want because they want everything from a man. They want them to be safe and stable and be a provider, but they also want them to be wild and adventurous and exciting. They want them to be reliable, but they also want to be a danger. And it's like, hang on a minute, that's a really tough gig for a man. Like, what do you want from me? Am I the lover? Am I the provider? Am I your confidant who listen to your problems? Do you want me to solve the problems? Do you want me to be a listener? It's like, fuck, where do I? For a man, it's confusing, but I think it's coming from a confusion on the other side too. I'm like, I want my guy to be everything, and I'm not sure you can be. Certainly not at the same time. And I think that can create this, shaming in a certain moment or frustration in a certain moment. I need you to be this in this moment. It's like, well, hang on a minute. I thought you wanted me to be that. So I'm trying to be that. And now you want me to be this. And it's contextual. I think it's a communication thing largely, but it's a challenge on both sides. Men don't know how to be, and women don't necessarily know what they want. Or they do, but they want it all. And that's...
It was a sliding scale. It keeps changing. And so that's a good point.
It's moving goalposts.
Whenever I work with guys, the main two categories I see guys coming in with the most common of curses is anger and shame. Anger and doubt. Those are the biggest one for guys. I'm not doing good enough. And for women, it's denial and excuses are the main ones. They get into blame, guys go into shame. And so like, that's the thing. So women are going to go and blame and say, you should be ashamed because you're not good enough for something that I don't even know what I want. It's a sliding scale of judgment to tell you how you're not doing it right, but I don't even know what right is because it may change tomorrow. So today I want you to be financially stable, and tomorrow I want you to be physically amazing. And then the next day I want you to be my therapist. And then the next day I want you to be the bad boy. But then the next day I want you to be the good guy. And this day I want you to be a great father. But this day I also want you to be the adventurer. And you're like, I don't know who I'm supposed to be for this sliding scale. And no matter what let's say I nail it. And then the next day you're like, you're not nailing it because I also wanted you to be this too. I have a list if you want to crack up. I actually ask my people, just like you do. Like, I don't know the answer. Let me ask questions. And I surveyed multiple women's groups for what do you want in a man? And I made up a list called the Prince Charming. I made up this Prince Charming list on my own. And it was as ridiculous of a list as it was most obscene. Like, he's a great dancer, perfect smile, has a bunch of money, super generous with his money, takes care of everybody, always stoic, he's a great cook, but he's also super educated, like this ridiculous list. Like, it was across the board. It was like 60 things as asinine as I could get. And I said, ladies, this is my list. And they were like, this list is insane. I was like, well, make your own list, ladies. They came back and their list was longer. Their list was longer. I did a video on this. There's a video on my TikTok of me reading the list that ladies say, this is what we want from a guy. And this dude was beyond impossible. And I even threw this out there. This is the superficialness of not knowing what you want. I said, ladies, let's do this. I'm going to give you your wish. There's 79 things on here, and I'm going to give you a guy who has all of them. And I'm even going to add in 2 extra ones. Amazing protector. He's a fucking ninja. He can take out a 6'5" giant. He's the badass. And he's got a huge dick. Like, I'm going to give you above and beyond. This whole list, I'm going to add those 2. He's a ninja, and he'll fuck you into retardation, and you're going to love it. It's going to be amazing. And they're like, we like this. And I'm like,
sign me up.
And I'm like, he's 5'3". More than half bailed on the perfect guy because he was born shorter than they think he should be.
Wow.
The most ridiculous list. Millionaire, good family, loves their kids, takes care of everything, good cook, great dancer, great smile, super intelligent, highly educated. Like, the list was insane. I also added in ninja and huge schlong. Still too short, deal breaker. And I said, can you imagine a man who's got all 80 of these things? What do you believe you bring to his table to be this selective? Because this guy is like a top 1%er. What are you able to be so judgmental for that you bring to the table? And there was no, it's, you want to know what the sound was? We didn't do any self-assessment. We gaslight our own introspection. The women in most cases won't really ask hard questions to themselves because it's going to be justified for some reason or another. And so we didn't assess what is my value that I bring to a guy who's perfect. He's just not tall enough for me. And it's not a protector issue because he's a ninja. So it's not like, well, he's short, so he can't keep me safe. That's not the guy. He'll Jean-Claude Van Damme kick someone in the face. This is the guy, right? Had nothing to do with it. That's amazing. Now, the men's list, I think it was 11 things. And every single thing on the list had nothing to do, like even the attractiveness, which is the most common one people would put guys under. They were like, just above average. Like, I don't need her to be a 10. Like, give me like a 6. And like, she tries. Like, she at least like eats well and takes care of her body. Like, she like at least makes an effort. I don't need her to be perfect. I'd rather her be like, she's pretty and she tries. Like, I'd rather that, and they did the hot crazy scale. Have you ever seen that chart? They're like, I'd like her to be at least average hot. And they were being generous to go at least under 8 crazy, which is a very high number, by the way. Like, I'm like, let's be real. If we can get down under 4, that's probably a good number. But they're like, no, we'll accept a high level of crazy as long as they're trying. The rest of the list was be a great listener, be compassionate, be nurturing, be loving, be fun, be kind. And kindness was really the big one. Don't be nagging, don't be complaining, don't be bitching. Be kind. Show some sort of effort to be empathetic or compassionate or care. The list was all just kind things. Appreciation was really big. Just appreciate. Have gratitude. That was the list that guys put down. And if you look at the women's list, even when I share it to women, they were like, this is an insane fucking list. Mm-hmm. And they look at the men's list and I'm like, were these guys really being chauvinistic and sexist or anything like that? They're like, this is the most reasonable list I've ever seen. Surveyed by women also. This isn't just the guys tooting their horn.
Yeah.
Well, that leaves a big gap in the whole thing. Like, you're not good enough based on somebody who doesn't know what they want. And yet, this is a leadership thing. I'm going to give you another piece. I'm just dropping stuff on you, Nate. So here's one of the things. So when I did another survey based on like, let's see, what was I talking about? They don't know what they want. They have this thing. I think I just lost my train of thought. Damn, we're so live. It hurts right now. So this is what it ended up being. For women, they found this out when it came to advertisements. Women are far more susceptible to being socially accepted. The Jones effect, if you will. They found this out in like the 60s. They started changing all their ads over to have it so like choosy moms choose Jif, or like all good moms do this, or you know, the women in the know, they do it this way, or if you want to be up on trend, you need to wear this style, or if you want to look good, you wear this makeup. Like they started realizing if you wanted to get sales, women were the one who would fall for the ads the most because they wanted to have social acceptance and be a part of it. And if you started looking at the way the ads work, they don't work as well on men. So now multiply that by social media about like how people post up how their families are or how they are, and the social approval of having like the perfect thing, and the comparisons, and how women will start changing themselves based on what they're seeing others do. And they're influenced highly by outsourced or outside sources. They're highly influenced. I want that, or I'm not good enough, or I compare myself to, or why isn't mine not like that? Now, riddle me this. With men, do you think the susceptibility is around the same for guys? If you saw a Calvin Klein ad and now you have to look like that model and buy that underwear, is it the same for us?
I've got no idea. I think
how influenced are you?
I think men are more motivated by what women think of them rather than what everyone else thinks of them.
Correctamundo, which means if we're highly influenced by our girl, and we'll change ourselves based on what our girl says that she wants, but she's highly influenced by all these outside sources and constantly changing her mind. Who do you think should be in charge of the direction here? The person who will keep true north and do what they believe is right for the pack, or the person who's constantly influenced and changing their mind all the time? Who should be steering the boat? This is not because I'm saying one is better than the other, but one is going to make sure that the whole pack is okay, and the other one is going to start shaming the pack because they saw a Facebook image of somebody who has all of the kids and them wearing the same flannel and a pumpkin patch looking like a perfect family, and our kids are jumping off the couch and writing on the walls, we're not good enough, that's your fault. Instead of going, we have healthy kids, and you're safe, and we have all the things that we need, and I love you. Why would we worry about that person's photo? Because 1 month later, that family is getting a divorce. And that was just a picture that was taken. Who's not going to be influenced to say, like, you're not good enough because I saw another image?
Yeah.
Guys don't care. Like, and I surveyed my guys. I'm like, hey, if you saw a picture of a, Victoria's Secret ad and go like, my girl doesn't look like that. Do you go home and go, you're not beautiful because she is? And I had 0 guys who are like, we don't give a fuck about that. No, I've never gone to my girl and gone, be a size 0. Have you ever done that to your girl and go, I need you a size 0 now?
No.
We don't do that. Guys we're not connected to that.
Mm.
But women are constantly saying, I'm not enough based on an outside comparison that had nothing to do with my man at all.
Mm.
Because none of my guys were falling in this category of putting that kind of pressure on their women.
Mm.
But women were putting that pressure on themselves from outside validation.
Mm.
Who should be calling the shots?
Yeah.
But if we're changing ourselves based on a person whose scale is constantly changing based on a social media post, we're headed right for the crash. We're going to smash.
Yeah, it's what we said before. It's just moving goalposts, isn't it? It's unsteady ground. It's like, am I doing well here or not? I don't know. Like, I thought I was, and now I'm not sure.
So what's your take? Those are a few of the things survey wise. What's your take? Where you go like, man, interesting info. What do we do with this, or how can we support our guys, or what would be like a potential like solution to one of these things that, like, I wouldn't say it's a problem, but I say it's a leadership issue.
Yeah, I think it depends what the problem is that we're trying to solve. I mean, the thing that really came up for me when you were sharing that was one of the reasons why I see such huge value in men's groups in terms of doing the work and finding a deeper understanding and as a vehicle for growth. Because definitely one of the things that I've seen, and I've been this guy too, is in some of mixed spaces when you're doing the deep work or seeking to do that to better yourself and understand yourself more deeply. That's really hard if you've got a hot girl in the room. Like, it's just, men are different. And we've got the, like, we're not going to be as vulnerable. We're not going to be as open and not going to be as honest. And I've seen that. I've been in these kind of spaces where there's real potential for transformation. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not going to say what I really think because she's cute. And I don't want to be honest about this because I'm embarrassed. And I think that's one of the reasons why that I see such huge potential for these spaces for men, because there's a level of depth that men will go to given the right circumstances.
Yeah, we can't take the armor off if there's somebody there. There's a thing inside of all of us men that I think people forget, is there's a little boy inside of all of us who wants to impress you. Look what I can do. Look how fast I can go, or look what I can jump off of, or look what I can build, or look what I drew, or look what I made, or look how strong I am, or whatever. There's a part of us that wants to impress the girl. Even if you don't even have real intent, you're like, well, I don't want to look dumb in front of this girl.
Yeah.
Like, there's a thing inside, like, even if you were like, let's just say you're doing a workout and you're like, man, this is fucking heavy. And then a cute girl's like, hey guys, what are you doing? Can I watch? You're going to be like, put on another plate. You know, like all of a sudden you just got superhuman strength, and you will literally break bones to make sure you don't look dumb in front of her. There's a thing inside of us that wants to go like, be impressed. There's a reason there's cheerleaders at sports events. There's a psychological thing that we want to perform better when you've got a girl cheering you on. And a lot of times the relationships that we choose is because she was the best cheerleader at the beginning. You know, we choose them based on like, man, she made me feel the most inspired. And I wanted to be better every time I was around her. That's a part of men. That's a part of us. And I went through like roles of a man. And when I start going through all of the roles that men do for like what's a man's job, like protector, provider, presider, being the voice of reason. We're the empathetic ones for like all the pack, and we make sure everyone's needs are addressed. Like, we go into all of these different things. And at the end of like there's like 11 things that we had for our guys. Like, that's our role. At the end, the guys were like, every one of our jobs is to serve others. Every job that we do is for other people. Men are natural givers. And I think it's forgotten. The provider, I go get and then make sure you have it. That's a provider. That's a giver. I will protect you with my life. I will give my physical well-being and put it on the line so you're safe. That's a giver. I will make sure that there is balance and peace here because I will try and keep the logic intact here the best I can. That's a giver.
Yeah.
And
I think
guys
that's
are givers.
Yeah, totally. I agree. And I see that, which is a noble thing, and it's a virtue, it's coming from a positive place. And I also see that it's a source of major struggle for a lot of men, because in doing that, they very often sacrifice themselves, and they very often don't even acknowledge, actually, don't even connect to, hang on, what do I want here? What do I need? Like, what's the right thing for me? Because very often it seems like it's at odds with what their partner needs, or what their kids need, or what their family needs. It seems like there's this idea that I've heard many times, both implicitly and explicitly from men, which is if I do what's right for me, that's selfish, and that's not being a provider, or it's not doing the right thing for other people. And that's a very binary way of looking at it. I don't see it like that. Actually, I've got a men's group running at the moment, which is a virtual men's group, and the whole premise is you can connect to what you want and create what you want, and that's actually the gift that you can give to everybody around you. Like, you being you, and you owning that, and you creating everything that you want, and not settling, and not selling yourself short. That's absolutely the best thing for your partner, or your kids, or your family. Like, you being connected to that is such a powerful stance that doesn't have to cost them. It can actually be the best thing. And that can seem totally counterintuitive, or like,
I don't think it is. I did a men's group right before this call, and that topic came up today, where I have guys who are business owners and guys who are very successful, multi-million-dollar exchanges happening with these guys' business, and they feel like when they work on their stuff, they're selfish. That was the belief system put on them by not only parents but spouses. You're being selfish. And I said, wait a second. What do you do when you have an abundance of something? And they say, when I have an abundance, I just make sure everybody else is good. I make sure my kids are good. I make sure she's good. I make sure the house is good. Like, I make sure everything is better. I improve everyone else's life. And I'm like, who else is more worthy of abundance or working on themselves when the more that you have, the more you make sure others have? Isn't that the person who should have the most? Because they make sure others are good. That is a good leader. But if you're like, I gather, covet, and hold to myself, and I hoard, and all of you starve while I thrive, well, that person is not a leader. That's a taker, not a giver. But a good man, a good leader, is a giver. And so that guy should be selfish, because he's actually selfless.
Yeah.
So should you want more? Yes, because if I have you have more. So judging.
You can't give what you haven't got to give.
So that guy should be working on getting more, because then all ships rise with a good leader around.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and fight an enemy together. And tell me if this feels like a worthy, noble cause for you. I right now have a high target for judgments. Right now, I'm on like, we have to start catching judgments. This is the weapon for compliance these days. You're bad. You're not good. You're the stupid one, or you're a chauvinist, or you're a bigot, or you're anything. They start judge, as though everyone who just has an opinion is now an authority. And this is how people change based on social acceptance. Like, and I've done this example multiple times, and I think I just want to have you start with it. What is your take when you see the effects of judgments and the problems that come with it, especially societally, not even just men or not even women, but just how people operate to tear each other down by saying you're not good enough because I made it up?
I think we can't help but judge. It's an innate thing for us. It's a survival mechanism, actually. We have to, someone crosses our path, we need to make a judgment immediately. Are they a threat? Are they food? Like, it's deep within us to be automatically judgmental. And so in that sense, I don't think we should beat ourselves up for that. That's evolved over many, many millions of years and thousands of generations to keep us alive. And it probably has kept you alive up until now. So in a sense, I wouldn't want to criticize the reflex, this like automatic judgment that happens. Where I think it becomes a problem is where people assume that their initial judgment is the absolute truth and aren't willing to look at it and question it. I think for me, certainly, and I'm calling myself out as growing up in a very judgmental culture. British culture is massively judgmental. We've still got a huge chip on our shoulder. I think as a culture, there's still this like whiff of imperialism going on, and thinking we're better than everyone else. And I'm lucky that I lived in London for a lot of years and been around the world a fair bit as well, and have many friends from lots of different cultures, and spent time living away from the UK as well. That really helped me to see that, because it's hard to see it when that's all you can see. But when you start to get other perspectives, I think you can start to notice just your innate judgments. And I think having sort of seen through that to a large degree, I'm sure I get caught up in my own judgments too on a regular basis. In fact, I know I do, because I catch them all the time. But I think that's where it becomes an issue, is like, here's a bunch of judgments and they are true because what I think is obviously right. And I'm not willing to even question them. I'm not willing to have them challenged. I'm not willing to even look at my own judgments. I think it's just as true for self-judgments as it is for judgments of others as well. I think one of the things that I see is the biggest challenge that anyone faces is their own judgments of themselves. And so I see many problems created by judgment. So much conflict and so much just refusal to acknowledge different perspectives, refusal to be open to a different way of being in the world, or of seeing things. That it's judgment that gets in the way of all of that. And so for me, the ability to recognize judgment and to catch it and to be able to kind of put it there and look at it and be like, hang on a minute, this is a judgment right now and I'm coming from this. And am I cool with that? Is this actually true? Am I willing to change that or be open to seeing it differently? That for me seems like a vehicle for change, for growth, and for a broadening of perspective. And to be honest, that's a pretty major part of my work with people, really, helping them catch their own judgments. And that's where, the people who I've got around me in terms of coaches and mentors and men's groups and various things, that's part of the reason I invest heavily in those kind of things, because people help me to see my judgments. So I think it's a huge area. I think it's such again, in terms of leverage, I think it's a place to look that can impact so many things.
Yeah, I give you praise too for bringing up multiple different facets and even being able to assess intent, because one would be to able to, like you said, I'm going to assess danger and judge whether this is dangerous or not dangerous. But I don't think that that's the criticism that shames people into submission and self-censors them into hating themselves. Going like, this is not a safe alley to go down. This seems like a bad place to be. Those are judgments based on survival and safety. Fair enough. But if I say, I hate your fucking shirt, well, where's the safety and the danger? Well, no, I just made you feel like my shirt's not good. Based on what? You just made up some bullshit out of nowhere. And now I'm like, well, maybe this shirt isn't good. And I didn't even think about it. I just threw it on and what's wrong with it? And now we start doubting ourselves and questioning. And what's wrong? Is this not a good fit for me? And I've seen people, their entire belief system shattered in just one judgment. You know, and I will say, even working with women, most of the internal like damage done was from another woman judging them, especially at a young age. It's usually a mom thing where like, that looks terrible on your figure. And they go, this was my favorite outfit until you said that. And I have actually worked with women who like just that one sentence ruined their self-esteem because they didn't have any defenses against the person that loves them the most.
Yeah.
You know, and so judgments becomes dangerous based on intent or purpose and having the awareness to catch them. So I'm with you. I really enjoyed, you're right, the British culture thing. Good call. But I, you know, I'm not a part of that one. So it's like, I didn't think about that. You're right. Culturally, like we're better than everybody else. Just the culture itself is designed to say we're judgmental.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to even build a defense for when it's the default for the nation.
Yeah, it's tough because you can't see it, which I think is true for self-judgment too. Like when someone like the lady that you mentioned forms a judgment of herself very often this happens at a really young age. And like you say, sometimes it can just be one thing that's said, or it doesn't have to be a result of major trauma. You know, it can just be a family dynamic or a certain look or a certain thing. And someone takes on this judgment and it's so deep in them that they can't see it. Then it becomes who they are. And it's like this narrative. It's like, this is the story of me. And because we live through our stories of us, it becomes true. And so we project it and we're like, I'm a loser. So now everything I touch is rubbish because I'm a loser. And I'm you know, there's a saying in, I think it came from, how did it come from? I think it came from Gregory Bateson. It was what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. It's like your idea is alive in you and it's seeking evidence to validate that it's true, whether it's a good idea or not. And if that idea happens to be a self-judgment, it's like you're constantly validating it and proving it to be true just because you think it. And it's because it's out of sight that it's an issue. I think when you can bring it into sight, then it becomes something that you can work with. Like the cultural thing, I remember I was going out with a girl, a Bulgarian girl, who had lived in a few countries actually before she came to the UK, but she was living in the UK and that's where we met. And I remember her saying to me, British culture is just so judgmental. She said, I walk in a room and I immediately feel the judgment based on my accent, based on my skin color, based on what I'm wearing. She's like, I just feel it more than anywhere else that I've lived. And at the time I was just, you know, I was laughing at it. I was like, nah, what are you talking about? You know, you're super sensitive and it's not real. And I couldn't see it. And it was just a source of a joke, you know, which for me was just me judging her. And it was only when I then lived away and was in a different culture. I mean, the Aussie culture is, you know, not a million miles from the British culture. And it's got some aspects of American culture too, I think, but it's definitely not British. And the more I lived there, the more I started to notice it I would come back every year, and every time I came back to the UK, I would just see it. I would just see when I'd land in the airport, and I would just be surrounded by British people. And there's still quite a few British people in Australia, but I wasn't surrounded by them. And when I'd come in, I would just see the tension and the friction, and I would just start to notice the Britishness, you know. And there was many aspects to what that is, but one of them was this judgmental nature, and the more I could see it in other people, the more I could then start to see it in myself. And then that became, it was quite confronting, actually. It's quite confronting to see that you have had a whole bunch of assumptions and judgments and deeply ingrained beliefs that were part of who you thought you were, that all of a sudden you go, hang on a minute, I didn't choose this. Like, I've learned this stuff. I've learned to think like this. And some of it's great. You know, there's many aspects of the culture that I love, and there are also many that I don't. And one of the things that I don't is the judgmental nature of it. And I remember going to her after, you know, like years later, like 3 or 4 years after she said that to me, I was like, fuck, I get it. I finally get it. And I see how toxic that is. And I see how limiting that is. I see how that totally gets in the way. And it's just not helpful.
And the more that you've leveled up, like, it makes it so it's easier for you to navigate by knowing thyself, to go like, I got to separate myself from that opinion or that energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know you're
and
on a
not
roll. I just jumped in.
and not judge yourself for it, because that in itself is a judgment. You're like, oh, I'm so fucking judgmental. Why am I always like this? It's just,
you're being a piece of shit, and you idiot. Yeah. You're being so stupid. And you're like, stop beating you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's culturally is the thing too. I grew up in Detroit. I don't know if you know much about America, but not a lot of people go to Detroit and go, what a lovely environment. Like, it's a tough city. It's a very tough city. It's a tough culture, and like, it's hard. Detroit's a hard city. And, there's a lot of violence, a lot of anger, a lot of angst. It's just cold, not a lot of manners. And I moved to Virginia for a few years, and Virginia's down south. And so there, like, the culture is like warm, southern hospitality. And it's very like, good morning. How you doing? Like, it's super kind. And so you get used to kind of being around that. Like, hey, good morning. You open the door for a random stranger. Like, thank you very much. Good morning. Hey, how you doing? Like, just really nice. And I remember going back after a couple of years back home where my family was in Detroit, opened the door. I was like, hey, what's up, man? And they looked at me like, fuck you. And I was like, back at home again. Here we are. I forgot that's what the normal was. Yeah. Is that it's just hard and mean and don't fucking talk to me. And that energy is just like, go fuck yourself energy, just being around it. Right. But I grew up in Sparta. I grew up in that. And so I'm like, that's just regular until you get out of that and go, why is nobody here speak Spartan? Just like you said, why aren't you guys being as judgmental? I'm judging that. And they're like, you don't got to do that here. They're like, that's normal, right? Not everywhere else. And so I think it's a good observation. And man, how fucked do we feel when we're like, I was gaslighting that girl when she was like, damn, you can feel that energy. Like, no, you can't. That's just you. But she's like, no, it really was there. Yeah. Dang it. Yeah. Yeah. But that's the thing with judgments. You can't see them very often. I think that's the art to it is to be. Actually, I think it's one of the most powerful things anyone can do in the journey of self-improvement and self-discovery is to really deliberately and consciously look at, where am I judging myself, other people, the world? Like, what are the judgments that I've got? Because some of them will be useful, but many of them really won't. Correct. And it's hard, man, because you've got to go deep, and a lot of it's very unconscious. But it's so freeing, actually, because it frees you up to at least have some choice. Like, do I want to continue to think like this or not? Yeah. Or will I apply that judgment to my belief system, or will I decline the offer? Being able to, that's why I'm with you. The first skill we train in the Warrior's Way is awareness. Did you see it? Because you can't make a choice you don't know exists. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Did you see it? There's a choice there. Did you see it? Are you going to apply that judgment to your belief system and identity, or are you going to say that's not authentic to me? I know myself. You get to pick. And a lot of times we're subconsciously trying to appease a group or a person or, somebody who's like, those shoes don't go with that, man. You're like, oh shit, I should go change these shoes. Instead of going like, I love the shoes and they're not for you. Like, we don't stand up for ourselves because we want to be accepted. We're social creatures, but we fall for it all the time. That's where it gets into, like you said, the piece that I would say training for this is people can't handle the truth very well. And so if I were to say we can't speak in radical truths because people can't handle the truth, especially their own, that's the hardest part. You're not wrong. They can't handle their own truth. And so the first step I would go to is practicing acceptance first. Instead of judging, just accept that's where they are. That's what they did, or that's how they see it. I don't have to have an opinion to say you're bad, you're good, you're right, you're wrong. I can simply say, I see where you're coming from. I just don't agree. And that's, I think, where people have gone off the deep end for polarization, is it turns into a judgmental conversation versus a disagreement. Yeah. And that's why I say judgments is probably the enemy that I want to go after next. Yeah. Because it's the thing that destroys people from the inside out based on a subjective opinion with no facts necessary. Yeah. We need to be able to challenge those things, to know myself, know exactly what it is that I'm seeing so I can choose whether I apply it or don't apply it. And then assess, is the intention behind this judgment for danger and protection, or is it just somebody sharing their authoritarian opinion? Well, then I can decide whether I apply or don't apply, because I can accept that they have an opinion, but it doesn't need to be mine because I'm confident enough in who I am to not apply it. Yeah. How do you develop this type of confidence? Our men's groups. They join your group. They join my group. They join us. And we go, hey, you can take your armor off here. Have you noticed this? Tell me if you found this in your group. My men's confidence are so high now that they can be authentic in the world and people completely invalidate them. And they're like, I don't care, because I have men that I respect, men of honor and men of dignity that accept me 100%. So if you don't get it, I'm good. Have you found that too?
Yeah, I think it's a natural evolution that comes. And it's not a confidence. I think often people think of confidence as like swagger or kind of arrogance or something. It's not that like showy confidence. It's like a quiet confidence.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're good. I'm good. Whatever's going on here, I'm cool.
Yeah.
You're disagreeing with me, or you're having a pop at me, or you don't like my idea, or you're saying no to my ask or whatever, and that's okay. Because I don't need validation from this, because I've already done that work to be grounded and validated and connected to who I am. So I don't actually need that. It kind of removes the neediness. I think it often removes people's attachment to outcomes, which doesn't mean that they're not ambitious. So they're still going out and creating great outcomes, but not from a place of like, I need this to be okay.
Yeah.
And that then creates this emotional freedom, which looks like confidence, and it feels like confidence.
Yeah.
It's like whatever goes, we only met last week. It's like whatever goes here is fine, because, they don't need any particular outcome to be okay. And I think there's just such a freedom with that. I can say that from the perspective of living most of my life terrified about what other people think. From having chronic social anxiety for years and years and years, till I was like 30, till 10 years ago, till I was 31. That was when I first kind of really started to understand that. So I've got a very long history of like not feeling that at all, not feeling that confident, despite actually being pretty good at most things that I turn my hand to. Not there's like lack of confidence because I'm not any good at anything. It was the opposite, actually. If I was dedicated to something, I generally got quite good at it. But this lack of confidence, just because this like constant crippling fear of what do they think, and how does this look, and it's, oh man, it's so draining. And when there's when you drop that, which comes from awareness and then acceptance, everything that you've said, when you drop that and you're just free to be and just express, it's like everything gets easier, just everything. And I'm not sure I would have believed that if you'd said that to me, a few years ago. I really, I just couldn't have seen that. I had no reference for what that was like. And now I'm like, oh man, why did it take me till I was 31 to actually have that experience?
Yeah, you have usually a trauma or something will crack us into that to wake us up. We need rock bottoms to happen.
It's a panic attack for me.
No shit. Yeah, the wake up calls are serious.
Yeah.
I'll give a testament to one of the shows you should listen to versus Maria Callas, who's a spirit side warrior, and she was breaking down the phases that really helped me also evolve a little bit on belief systems for like happening to me, the victim, to happening for me, which is the big push right now. You'll see everywhere. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. That's everywhere. But there's more phases to it. And people don't talk about the last two. And when you are able to really do the deep work on yourself for truth and acceptance and control, which is a bad word, controlling everything for coping mechanisms, security, safety, things like we do all these things for control. And once you can go heart, mind, body, and soul and outlets and balance, you can get to the next phase, which is not happening to you, not happening for you, but full observer of happening. That happened. And it gets into the thing where like, take those three examples for like, say there's a something happens with your car, the tire gets weird, there's a piece that gets messed up, it makes the tire get weird and you crash into somebody and it's dangerous and things go crazy and you have somebody get out of the car and go, fuck me, of course this fucking happens. This shit always happens to me. I fucking hate this. I'm suing this. And they tell everybody how tragic their life is. And if it wasn't for bad luck, they'd have no luck at all. Like, the people. Can't wait. Misery loves company and can't wait to include it with you.
Yeah.
But then you get the next wave, which is happening for me, which is a recognition of, holy crap, this could have been the end of my life. Holy smokes. What was the last thing I said to my loved ones? Like this, every second from this moment on, that could have been it. And every second from this moment on is now a precious gift that I may not have been able to have if I wouldn't have survived this. And now they see the world through a whole new spectrum of gratitude, because now every minute became precious because you're not supposed to have any more if this would have gone any differently. Holy crap. This really woke me up. And I have seen people who were total assholes have a life-threatening experience and become wonderful people because of it. So that's the other side. And the other one will go into, I have peace and balance in what is, in all aspects, and go, that happened. And I can accept this has happened. And I'm appreciative and understand. So what shall I do about this? I have full acceptance in all categories. Looks like I need a new car. And I need to tell people I love them more. Like, I see this. The last one is working through you. And you can go, I want to make sure that this accident never happens to anyone else again. And I created a campaign to make sure people check this part on their car so it never breaks, so nobody else's lives are in danger, because my trauma has now become my motivation. The thing that happened to me, for me, and has happened in my life now works through me. And now I'm able to help others because I've gone through difficult times to help others go through difficult times. Now you find purpose.
Yeah.
And so those are the phases on that. But it has, a lot of times it takes one of these moments that suck, a moment of true pain, a moment of absolute shock where we have to go through our full grieving system of denial, bargaining, anger, and depression to wake up. And a lot of times life's rock bottoms or ultimatums are pretty damn gnarly. And I think I want to go into the last phase for this awesome conversation with you, and go into some of the tragedies that we not only have experienced, but we're trying to fight our asses off to prevent, because hope is a fleeting commodity these days. And especially in our men's groups, in the men's culture right now, hope and purpose and belonging are lacking, and isolation is through the roof, and the negative self-talk and the brutality inside of our family members and our loved ones, it seems to be taking a very, very permanent and heavy toll. Is it okay if we go into that direction and you share some of your experience so we can go in and fight this demon together?
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, I think so. I mean, I agree. I think that those stages, sometimes those stages can happen in seconds, actually, all of them. And sometimes it takes years, but there's a possibility there to be open to that if you're willing to pull yourself out of the victim mentality and see that there are bigger forces at play. And choose, I think, as well, choose to make that meaning, because I think the meaning you make of it is always subjective. But I think sometimes you can choose to decide, this didn't happen to me. This is happening for me because I'm choosing it, and I'm choosing to stand in that place because it's nicer over here.
Well, that's a training, and that's what's cool about what you're doing and what we do. Is there's only two kinds of people. You're either trained or untrained. You either know these skills or you don't know them. You either have a purpose or reason why you're doing it, or you're fumbling through hoping that you get it right. And so that's why there's a real need for what this is. If it's okay with you, I'm going to bring up the side that's been a big mission for us lately, both in, veterans and in personal life, is the suicide rate right now. It's a serious thing. And this is a big purpose right now. I think both of us, it's dear to our hearts because we both lost very close people in our lives to this.
Mm.
And we continue to have people who are close to us, who have people close to them, who this is claiming. At this point, the last numbers that I saw for even just U.S. veterans is 44 a day.
Mm.
And for globally, for men, it's 1 a minute. Even in this conversation, there's been 70 men in this conversation who have taken their lives, and that's just up to this point.
Yeah.
You know, but this has hit you home, and unfortunately, it was a hard wake-up call for life. But I mean, is it okay to go into that, or would you like me to start my end and you finish it? It's up to you.
Yeah, I don't mind. Let's see where we go. I mean, I'm not sure what the rate is here in the UK, but I know that it's 75% of all the suicides are men.
Last I saw, it was 5 to 1 men to women.
Yeah, that's about right. Which is it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because I think certainly there's a lot of criticism aimed at the world of men's work, because it's like, well, hang on a minute, we live in a patriarchy, and actually the women are the ones who are being, who are the victims here, and which I can understand that perspective, but I don't necessarily think that's true. I actually think a lot of the issues that negatively affect women are coming from broken men, which comes back to where we started at the beginning in terms of leverage. But I mean, it's a funny one, because the suicide that directly impacted me was my sister, actually. So that's doesn't quite fit into that. But I do think a lot of the complicating factors that led to her doing that was actually the result of toxic men, basically. But I mean, in a professional context, this is why it was so brutal for me when she took her life just before Christmas last year, because I think maybe 2 weeks before, or possibly, I think it was 2 weeks before, I wrote a post on social media about suicide, because, as you know, I do a bit of work with a social enterprise here in the UK that works with military veterans and emergency services staff, police, paramedics, fire brigade, and a lot of those guys. And we don't just work with men, but obviously most of those organisations, certainly frontline people, are predominantly men. But maybe not true for paramedics, actually. But I wrote a post about that I wrote because I had 3 different people within about 2 days having suicidal thoughts. And one of them was 11 years old, this little boy. And it just shocked me, and I'd done a fair bit of work with suicidal people, or very often people who'd already had a failed attempt, actually. That was often the thing that actually got them to seek some help. And I wrote this post about it, and I think the title of it was "We Are Failing Our Men." That was it. One of my clients, actually, one of my private clients who lives in Norway, and where he lives, he's very near a flyover, like a big road going over, and someone had jumped, and he sent me the picture. And there's a body out. He woke up and there's, sirens everywhere and police and whatever. And there's a body outside his house, and someone had jumped off the bridge. And that was the thing. Oh, I've got goosebumps talking about this. That was the thing that, it was quite confronting. And then in the previous 2 days, I had these 2 other conversations about it. And I was like, fuck, what is going on here? And I wrote about it. And it was the most shared thing I've ever published on Facebook. I'm not sure how many views it's had now, but it was massive, and it obviously touched a nerve for people. It was really important, and I think people can see it, but we don't know what to do about it. It's like I think everyone would agree that there's an issue here, but it's like, where do we start with this? And then it was, I don't know, 2 weeks after that I found out about my sister, and it was just that for me was a real existential crisis, to be honest, because part of it for me was like, hang on a minute, how how can I be someone who helps prevent that over here and help to pull people back from the brink, and have done many times, and yet I failed there, with the person I love the most. Like, oh, brutal, man, brutal. Talk about self-judgment. Holy shit, that floored me, because I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, how can I even pretend to be able to help people if I couldn't do that? And it stopped me in my tracks for a while. I've got to be honest. But I don't know. I think it depends whether you want to talk about suicide as a thing or suicide as part of the male dynamic, because I think
we can keep it as just a thing. Like, this affects everybody, because it's no different than addiction. It affects everybody around them. It's everyone,
Yeah.
So, like, even still, if it's 5-1, your sister fell into the one. Like, it's still not a low number. It's just because that's just the smallest metric of a large number.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think that as a whole, it's pretty important for everybody.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think that's the thing or that's one of the things that that was a huge realization for me during this period, and still even now. It's like the moment I really started talking about it publicly, it was staggering to me how many people I knew who'd been affected by it, or they knew someone, or a friend or something. The amount of people who had some reference for a suicide was shocking. In an environment where supposedly, the UK is like officially like the 5th richest country in the world or something like that. We've got one of the highest standards of living anywhere. We've got one of the highest standards of living in the whole history of humanity. It's like, hang on a minute, we've got so much. We've got these incredible lives, really. As a general rule, the average is very, very high compared to whatever you want to compare it to. And yet this is making sense. And it's making sense for more people. It's making sense for younger and younger people, which is the thing that's so sad about it. For me, it's like when there's, 11-year-olds starting to go that way. Like, what? How is that happening? And I think it just highlights how broken our society is, where that is a very real option for people, where they and I can say this having sat opposite people who have made a plan, which is very different from a suicidal ideation, by the way. Like, lots of people, there's a huge thing from a safeguarding perspective. There's a massive difference between I've had a suicidal thought, which anyone I've ever asked has said yes to that, versus I've made a plan. That's very different. And that's one of the things that I've seen from talking to people like that, is that it just can become the obvious logical conclusion. It's like they just can't see a way out. It's like, this is the only route. This is the only thing that's going to have me feel better. And they feel isolated. They feel like no one understands them. They feel like there's nothing else that they can do. There's no other levers to pull. It's like, I've tried it. I've exhausted all options here mentally. The logic says that's the only course of action now. And I've sat opposite people and have been in this conversation and I felt my blood run cold with just like the logic of it, like just someone going, this is it. And they've totally made up their mind. And it's like, whoa, how do we get to that point? Like, what's going on in our culture that one is creating the conditions for people to feel so fucking lost that they even consider that in the first place, but then two, to feel like there's nothing that they can do to change anything in their life. That, for me, I think that's on us, actually. That's on all of us. Like, we've got to be honest about looking at how we live and what we're doing and how our society works, because that's the tragedy, I think. And that is, I think it's changeable. I don't think we're destined for more and more people to be going down that route. I think it can be, it can change, but I I think it's on all of us to be open to it and to be willing to engage in the dialogue about that and be willing to contribute to that change too.
Yeah. Highest honors to like your sister and like honors to you for going into these fights. Like highest honors, highest respect. Like
Thanks, man.
it's such a massive loss and then a direct connection to it. And I've had to go to funerals for friends who like, you know, shot themselves in the car. Like I've had to go and be at these funerals. I know those moments, and it's gut wrenching. Do I think that there is hope? I'm going to give you a glimmer of hope. And like, you know, if you don't have this, like, you know, I would encourage you to incorporate this into your group, you know, if you don't already. But like, one of my guys who was, his name's Phil. I give Phil a lot of credit. When we go through our strengths, his superpower is he's likable. That's like his whole thing. He's just a sweetheart. He's just a super nice guy. That's just it. And you'd think that wouldn't be an amazing ability, but ask any introvert if they would like to have you're just liked, because every one of them is like, I would really enjoy that ability, please. Everyone just likes you. Yes, please. Well, Phil is like, I don't know what to do with that. He was isolated. He's got injuries, like really like debilitating injuries. And he's like, I'm isolated and alone. And he just started hanging out with our group. And so eventually I had Phil join, and I took care of Phil to join. And he's like, how can I contribute? How can I contribute? He's like, I just like to hang out with people. Can I create a hangout group? Just a hangout group. It doesn't have to go into battle. We don't have to do deep work. We don't have just bullshit. We can talk about fishing and trucks or girls or whatever. Just hang out. Just boys be boys. I was like, of course, man. And he just runs it, just being likable Phil. That's it. Just being a good old boy, just a nice guy. The suicide calls that I would have to handle, just like you, was maybe one a week or once every 2 weeks. I'd have a guy in the middle of the night who's just been drinking and sitting next to the gun saying, I don't see another fucking way out, man. And I know those battles. I've had those conversations, and it would be more common than we would like them to be.
Yeah.
And since we started this, like, hey, just jump in and hang out group, it's been coming up on a year now. The guys have a place to go where they're heard. They have a place to go where they belong. They have a place, and they go late. Sometimes they go to like midnight or 2 a.m. They just stay up and hang out. They can be heard with guys who have gone into battle and know how to fight. They can feel important and valued, and they're wanted to be around. Since we created this group, we haven't had any suicide calls.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very important metric, because we've had a lot more guys join, but been able to feel like there's a place that they belong. And that's enough to keep the demons at bay. You know, when you have a support where you're valued and you have purpose and you are important, the isolation is a killer.
Oh,
and we created a space where like you can be heard.
Mm.
It's amazing to me that taking the ability of just, I like hanging out with you, is enough to make it so those calls stopped. What a crazy solution. And that's why I have to give Phil praise, because he's like, I just want to make a hangout group. Yeah. And that was a game changer. Just come hang. I want you to be a part of I want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hang out with me. Nobody gives a shit about me. I do. And it's enough to keep the demons at bay, because there's another lever there. There's hope again. And there's a place where you can go, I can start working through some of the curses and demons in me. That's a thing. And let's go in, like the thing for I would go solution wise too. The thing like for your sister, it was a toxic man who was influencing this. Well, we have to make less toxic men.
Yeah. 100%.
Like that's part of what we're doing is like, then it's going to have to be fix that part. Less toxic guys, more leaders, more generous, giving, strong, confident men who look out for their pack. They don't destroy or attack their pack. They protect.
Yeah.
You don't hurt and demolish your person because you can't deal with your shit. You train with other men to deal with your shit so you can be the strong presider for your pack.
Yeah.
We need less toxic guys. And that means we have to get over our own bullshit start getting where we're not waiting until crisis or everything goes wrong and go, let me try and improve and get stronger in my leadership with other guys, and not call it therapy, not call it counseling, not call it weakness, not call it broken. And just go, it's evolution, man. I got to get stronger.
Mm.
You know, and this is the part where we can do that. Also, the patriarchy talk, we're going to have to shove that shit up our asses, because who's getting attacked? Your sons, the 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
These boys nowadays, the young generation, are completely ashamed of being alive because of this feminism talk going so far the other direction. Guys in my age bracket, like my men, you can say whatever you want. I don't give a shit. You can't break me with that. I was around when there's still honor, loyalty, and dignity. We still have that. But these young boys who are supposed to be ashamed for existing don't have a fighting chance, and being a man is bad, and that's what I'm going to be next. Boys, statistically, 30 and under, have stopped asking women out. The good guys have stopped playing for multiple reasons, not just the gratification of pornography, but also the massive rejection from women having the illusion of options that aren't true. It's destroying relationships, and guys don't want to play anymore. In fact, they feel ashamed, and they get called catcalling or rapey for even asking a girl out in a noble way. This is ruining relationships, and so it's turning on to online gratification from both sides. Whether it be create your own OnlyFans account and getting all the attention you want, or posting bikini pictures and getting likes and comments, or guys going into pornography to get instant gratification without rejection. We have to start building our guys back up to make it so that they have the confidence to create families again. The confidence and loyalty and dignity to not tear your pack apart and not create more people like your sister who feel like this is just no hope. Like your protector has become your destroyer. We need guys to do better. And I'm with you on this, but creating a place of belonging where you can take your armor off and train, so that way you can go back with an alpha mentality of building others up and not tearing people down. I feel like that's the only place that we can do to start creating hope again for the next generation and not be ashamed for existing.
It's a call to arms. That I think that's such a powerful position. You know, that is you sticking your flag in the sand and going, right, this is what I stand for, and this is what I think we need to get. And I totally agree on all fronts. I think, I mean, there's a bunch of different things to possibly say on this. I think on the isolation piece, that I've never talked to someone who's suicidal who doesn't feel totally alone. Whether or not they have people around them, it's irrespective of that. It's a subjective experience of I'm on my own. And, that's a killer, because we are social creatures. We need human connection. It's vital for us. It's an essential part of life, and it's one of the things that we are losing at a rapid rate. And there's a lot to be said for individualism. You know, I've just spent a lot of time in the last year, or the last probably 3 years, around family to support, and it's hard, man. And I've needed my space. You know, I've just got back to my house Monday. I've only been back 3 days after 6 weeks, and I need my independence and my space. And that kind of individualistic ideal that's in our culture of like, well, I can just do me and that's fine. That actually is toxic, because we need support and we need compassion and we need connection. And I see that a lot of the stuff that's happening, like you said, with pornography, with social media, actually, even though we're kind of hyper connected in a way, you know, we're talking across half the world here to have this conversation. You know, that's amazing. We're incredibly connected in that way, but we're not that connected emotionally. Actually, we're losing that community. What is the communities that you're in these days? Like community, even though there are a lot of people around. I remember first moving to London and being surrounded by people. I'm from the country, and moving to this massive city and feeling totally alone. And I'm like, what that's weird because there's people everywhere. But it's not that. It's not just proximity to others. It's community, and it's that kind of connection. And I think, my sister's funeral, right? 200 odd people turned up, and there was so much love. There was so much grief there because all those people loved her, and she didn't see that. If she had felt that, and she'd felt the immense power of that, and I felt the immense power of that. That's the worst fucking day of my life, man. Really. I had to stand in the church and speak to these people, and I read some words that I'd written, and the energy in there was so powerful. It was awful, but it was so powerful because of the connectedness, the compassion, just the mutual pain, It was so connecting, and it helped me to get through that day. And afterwards, the connection from people and the support from people has just been insane. I could feel it. I could just feel it. I was getting hundreds of messages on various different messaging apps, and I could feel the energy of that. And I was like, whoa, that was helping me keep my shit together when the worst thing that could have possibly happened had happened. But she didn't feel that. She just wasn't connected to that. She just didn't know that was there, even though it was. And I think that's the thing that is on us, actually, to make sure that people know that. Like you said earlier in the conversation, that sometimes going through a trauma or something is the thing that has you make sure that you tell people that you care, or make sure that you voice your support for someone or your respect for someone or whatever. Like, that's so needed because it's so lacking, especially for men. Because men don't get that even from their mates often. This is where I think there's a difference between men and women, where women are actually really good at that. Women will say, to their female friends, "How are you?" Like they're good at creating that space just to vent and just to connect without having to solve anything. Whereas men aren't. You can be in a room full of your best mates and feel totally alone. And I've felt that before in the past, and it's weird and it's uncomfortable because it's like there are people here, but I'm still just feel totally isolated. And I think that that's something that is on us. That's on us to help to create the kind of environments where we feel that connection, and that can be as simple as just sending someone a message. That's it can show itself in many ways, but it's so easy to go, "Oh, I'm busy and I'm doing my thing, and I'm doing my life because what's important to me," and miss the fact that there are people around you who might be very close to you in proximity, but who are just feeling completely disconnected.
Yeah. I would lean in on, like, when I train like a real alpha, like a real man, like what's a real man? And we got into the conversation of vulnerability. We got into the conversation of compassion and empathy. We got into it. Can a real man go, "Hey, fucking love you, brother, man. I fucking feel you. Like, I'm with you on that one. And it's an honor, and I respect you, and I'm proud of you, and I believe in you, and I'm there for you." And is that weakness? Is that me being pathetic? Is that me being a bitch? It's like, I'll challenge anyone on this one.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, a real man can say, "Man, it's an honor to care for you, and I'll have your back through anything." And that's weakness. I'll take the challenge. Yeah. So I had a whole group of like badass dudes, everything from police officers, military guys, linemen, truckers, like just tough dudes all going, "I fucking love you guys. You guys are my brothers." Like a group of guys who started off like, be a man, be tough, be aggressive, take what you want, success, status, power, fame. And by the end going, "No, it's connection, man." And I've never had more compassion or more empathy and more love than from the brothers in this kind of group.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of those things, is raising people to have the awareness that you can be vulnerable, because that moment of prioritization when you can realize that I didn't send "I love you" to somebody who matters to me in a long time may be the deciding factor for them in that week. And we've both probably had those moments where I just thought of somebody I cared about, haven't talked to in a few weeks or a month, and go, "Hey, thinking about you, and you're important to me." And they go, fuck, you have no idea how much I needed that today.
Yeah.
Because we're not doing that anymore. And I would challenge, this is another challenge I put out there. If anybody ever says this bullshit line, I'm really busy, I don't buy it. What you're really saying is you're just a lower priority to me.
Yeah.
So if you take that one to heart, whenever you say, sorry, I've been really busy, take an inventory on what you chose to do, because I bet if I check your screen time, social media was more important for a minute. Because how long does it take to send an appreciation message?
Yeah.
Especially since you can talk to text.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
So it's a big fight, man.
Yeah. And that's real strength, you know, that's what I see as real strength. I've also been privileged to do a lot of work with elite military people, special forces, you know, incredible people who've done things that, you know, terrify me. Just the idea of them terrify me. And they're almost like the extreme end of that. They've been taught to embody this powerful masculine strength of show no fear, show no weakness, you know, don't drop the guard. I remember the first time I had a special forces soldier cry on me. And honestly, I was terrified because I thought he was pretty edgy. And I was like, whoa, if this guy kicks off, he could just rip my head off my shoulders like that. Like he was a monster. And I remember where this tear rolled down his face and he admitted that he was struggling with anxiety. And you know what? That took so much strength from him. That was strong.
Courage.
So much courage. And this guy's the kind of guy doing like secret behind the enemy lines kind of stuff that you will never, ever hear about. If he gets caught, his own government will deny him kind of thing. Like he's done stuff that most people would think, well, holy shit, that's courageous. But actually, he was good at that stuff. He was great. He was one of the best in the world at that stuff.
No problem. Run right into a gunfight. No problem.
Yeah, no issue. Like that's his thing. Like he's a beast.
Yeah.
But it was that for him to just own his weakness or what he perceived as weakness, for him to just acknowledge his uncomfortable emotion, which is all it was really. It was just him saying, I am not okay. That was all it was. That for him was like, he was trembling, man. He was like, oh, you could see he was like trying to keep it in. And he was just, eventually he dropped the guard and it was like, and then that created the environment for ultimately freedom, you know? And I see that as real strength. And that's
warrior shit right there.
Yeah, it is.
Agreed.
It is. In a culture that says that you shouldn't do that and you're going against the grain, you're going against what you've been taught to think is what is being a good, real, strong man. Everyone's desperately trying to be a good man and to go, no, it's the opposite. And it's actually to be open and honest and just acknowledge what's going on and admit that I don't know, or I'm stuck, or I'm scared, or I'm sad, or I'm fucking lost, or whatever it is. That's the real, that's what really changes things. And that's that, and it's such a powerful thing. And I, you know, if I come back to the idea of leverage, if I think, you know, if you've got half the world's population of men, if like even 10% really started to be that, the world would change, man. The world would change.
We're on a mission because we have to build it. That's what we've started to do. And I have no doubt that in the future with our powers will combine. You know, let's start putting the groups together. Let's unify, because we seem to be preaching the same message with multiple amazing leaders all going the same direction. The purpose is bigger than us.
Oh, for sure.
You know, I think you can relate with me with something where if we can teach our men to be courageous enough to face the battlefield in their minds, like our legacy is going to, you know, supersede us. My name will be gone long, like before the teaching and the strength that we're teaching generations. There will be sons and then their sons and then their sons that carry on the belief systems that we're able to instill in this lifetime, and they won't even remember who we are.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where the purpose will lie. And so I have, you know, no need for ego on this one because my name will be gone in 2 generations. But the teachings will keep going, no different than Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius or Socrates.
The implications are vast. And if nothing else, it will be a lot less pain for many, many people.
Mhm.
And just to come back to what you said on the male-female dynamic and where that's going, like, women are craving this.
They are.
And I don't mean, for their men to be like, oh, boo-hoo, I'm having a bad day. I'm not talking that. Not like this kind of needy victimhood. Oh, it's okay to not be okay kind of thinking.
That's what your brothers are for.
Yeah, I think that's where it can go wrong, actually. I think that's where some of the men's work is going in the wrong direction of just like, oh, I'm ashamed today and I'm just going to sit here in my shame. It's not that. But what women are craving is men who know themselves and who understand themselves and who are willing to accept all of it. And like that actually, from the perspective of, and I can say this as a single man, very deliberately so, having been in long-term relationships for most of my adult life. I've spent the last 4.5 years single because that's what's right for me at the moment, and been doing this work. And I tell you, it's creating such a different dynamic with women. You want those 11, your women that ticks all the 11 things. Like, the answer to that is not better chat-up lines or, a better six-pack. It's knowing yourself and expressing yourself fully. Women need that, man, and it's magnetic for them. They want that.
A man on a purpose is very attractive.
Yeah. Just a man who knows himself and who's willing to have that level of dialogue and
boundaries. Stand for what he believes in. Do what is right, not who is right.
Just be fucking honest.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. 5 weeks. The first 5 weeks is just tearing into who are you.
Yeah.
Like, you have to know thyself, know thy enemy, and know how to battle the demons and curses. You have to know. And I'm with you, brother. Like, this is the way.
Yeah.
This is the way it's going to be done. Man, highest honors to hang with you, Nathaniel. I really appreciate you very much.
Enjoyed this conversation.
I support you fully. This is a platform where I think we're both able to reach as many people as possible. And I want people to know where to find you and how to work with you. What do they have to do if they're like, man, I resonate with Nathaniel so much. That's the kind of leader I want to be with. Where do they go and how do they connect with you to be able to work together?
Yeah. My website is my name. So it's nathanielDunn.co.uk or .com.au, actually, because I still got the Aussie domains from when I was down there. And they can connect with me through there. I'm also pretty active on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find just on my name. So you can find me on there. And yeah, if it resonates, I just encourage people to reach out. Like, take a step. Just reach out, just say hello, start a conversation. I'm not for everyone, and I think it's important if people want to do the work, I think it's important that they find the right person to do it with, and that starts with a conversation. Just express your intent and be a stand for that, and whatever comes from that will come from it.
Hell yeah, I love it, dude. I'm on the same mission. Together, we're stronger. If there's anything I can ever do to support you, I will. Like,
thank you.
I believe in you and I believe in your purpose. I think we're on the same mission, and I'll have your back if you ever need me.
Agreed, man. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, likewise. Good conversation, mate. Thanks for creating a platform for this level of dialogue, because it is needed. And if even one person has listened to this and it's helped them, like, this has been worth our time. And so I think it's an amazing thing that you're doing.
Yeah, we're over an hour and 40 minutes in at this point, which means if you made it this far, you're a legend. And I hope you have an awesome day at your job, because you're probably listening while you're working, and we appreciate you for being with us.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Click on the button and you can become the hero in your own story. It's time to start making the choices to change. And the evolution that you're going to do begins with choosing the next step. This is the way. And together, we're always stronger.